Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast, My Hero Academia edition. Yes, you heard that right. My Hero Academia edition. The My Hero Academia portion of the podcast is back. I know you have missed this portion. It's been a long time, 10 months to be exact. So we have the My Hero enthusiast and 2023 number one overall episode, Miss Andrea Alanis. How are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing good. The first Friday of the year, made it through the first week. So everything else is, downhill or oops.
Downhill. Wow.
Smooth sailing from here. Oh my God.
Smooth sailing. That's funny. That is funny.
If that ain't a real Freudian slip right there, oh my God. Anyway, I hope everybody else's first week of the year has been going a little bit smoother than mine, obviously. But I'm excited that we're back talking about My Hero. It has been a really, really, really long time. And I feel like for me, other than the end of year podcast, and I mentioned it there, it feels like to me forever since I've done one. So I'm excited to be, back on the horse, back on like a regular podcasting schedule, potentially. And also excited to be getting new content soon.
Yeah. So to go on one of your previous things, it was forever because the last episode that came out was March 31st, 2023. Deku versus Class A, Bakugo's apology, Uraraka's determination. That was talking about episode 21 and 25. So for that coming out on the 31st of March, that means that was recorded way before then, too. So it is 10 months to a year. It has been a very long time in the My Hero thing. And then obviously, like you just said, you did the end of your podcast, which that's obviously out, and you did really well. I mean, at the end of the year, you had the most listened episode. You and the ladies group were the most listened YouTube one. Like, you were right up there with like most top tens in the year, along with Mitch. And obviously, the Dragon Ball fandom is a whole different fandom in anime in itself. There's
True.
nothing like it. Nothing's probably going to top it, and he knows what he's talking about, so he's really good at the stuff. But on this podcast, outside of the Dragon Ball fandom, you can make a case that the My Hero fandom and maybe the wrestling fandom are the second biggest fandom on this pod, and you're heading the ship on the My Hero one.
Woo! All aboard. Thank you, passengers, for riding with us and continuing to listen to our thoughts and feelings about the show and characters and or theories. Love to share, love to just talk about it. I know we've mentioned this before, and this is going off topic, sorry, Martin, but like being able to have these conversations with you when we started, becoming friends, just having these conversations randomly pop up at the end of the workday. Now that I've moved cross country again, our full downloads speaking freely and outside of text, this is where it happens. So it's always exciting to be able to do that for me. And it kind of just calls back to like how our friendship just all kind of really started.
Likewise, I feel the same. So obviously March 31st, 2023 is a very long time. So just want to recap. If you haven't listened to our pod since then, because you only listen to Andrea,
oh, guys,
there's a lot that's happened in the My Hero world. Sorry we didn't cover it, but we're just going to give a quick synopsis on some stuff, then we'll get into our topic. So literally, as soon as that pod came out, it got announced My Hero Season 7 was already in the works.
yeah.
Shared a little teaser trailer, brand new visual with Deku on it. Then, which I actually think this was bigger than the Season 7 trailer, in my opinion, Hollywood Critics Association revealed the nominations for the 2023 TV Awards. My Hero Academia Season 6 was nominated under the Best Streaming Animated TV Series or TV Movie category. They were competing against stuff like Central Park, Harley Quinn, Star Trek, Attack on Titan Final Season was another anime that got nominated. So just on that one, Andrea, obviously the numbers don't lie. Season 6 was probably their viewing wise was their best season ever. For you, podcast wise, it was your best season ever.
True.
And now awards wise, like getting nominated as a Crunchyroll Japanese anime for the Hollywood Critics Association, that's a big deal. And I think that if I checked, the award ceremony was actually this weekend.
I
Maybe.
think so. I was wondering, I was like, it should be coming up because it's starting to be the whole TV, movie, short
Hmm.
film, like award season.
So maybe by
So
February
hopefully,
we're
fingers
talking about
crossed.
that they won.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Hopefully. Honestly, it's also um I don't know if this is the first time. I don't keep up with things like this, but I'm wondering if this is one of the first times that a Japanese anime does break out into the category because obviously Attack on Titan is on there. So I'm wondering
Mhm.
if the previous season of Attack on Titan might have been the first one through, but seeing more of, I guess the genre, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Or the style taking up space within American media. And we've been talking about since I started doing this, and y'all probably did before I got here, about how anime is becoming so, it's mainstream, it's popular.
Hmm.
It's no longer like, oh, you watch anime, you're weird. Like,
Hmm.
you still get little hints of that here and there, but it's popular. It's Most people are not going to look down on you. Maybe they'll look sideways, like maybe you're too old for that. But again, we don't need your judgment. It's cool. These stories rock. The animation's beautiful, or really draws you into the story. So like we don't need to hear it.
Yeah. The reason I was like really ecstatic about them being nominated for this, obviously because of the things you said, but for the fact too that My Hero Academia is what us older people call a new gen
Right.
anime, like
Right.
2010, 2020s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and usually My Hero, they'll get some flack because, they have a crybaby main character,
Mm-hmm.
yada, 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 or some of the trolls saying, no one's watching My Hero. My Hero's fallen off because they haven't watched since, because no, they said like, oh, season five, it fell off, even though that was COVID and it was the precursor to season six and yada, yada, yada. But then you see the numbers. Oh, this is the highest anime of the year, and now this is getting acknowledged by the American Hollywood
American
Critics
critics
Association.
thing,
So
because
it's
it's
like,
not even just the American public. You're totally right, because it's actually the hoity-toity, if you're familiar with the word, but the upper levels where they're very easy to look down on media that they don't uh,
mhm,
isn't traditional. So it's kind of that extra level of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not accreditation. It's that extra kind of like,
validation.
thank you. Yes, the extra validation of like, yeah. So even y'all sticklers can really appreciate what anime brings to the table
Yeah.
and are willing to reward it.
Yeah. And you're not nominating everyone. I think it's just like it just goes to show how big of a deal like this is, because this is just
Mhm.
like for them being nominated for this and how good season six was. You just take it back a couple years ago where I know it was just coming out of COVID, but an anime movie was the highest grossing movie in the world.
Right,
That was
exactly.
Demon Slayer, and that was the
Demon
first
Slayer,
time
Mugen Train.
that was ever done. So then you see that, and like then you see this being nominated for something.
Hmm.
I just think it's a really big deal, especially for these new gen animes, because they're the ones that people are consuming now. Obviously, like the old gen and all that stuff, they're still doing their thing, but they have established fan bases. They're not even fan bases anymore. They're culture.
I was gonna
Like
say, yeah,
you're
it's.
a
Well,
Naruto
I was
fan,
actually gonna
it's
be a little mean and
culture.
say culty, but again, I'm a
I
Sailor Moon
mean,
fan. I did watch Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z Kai. I have not kept up, so I can't say like I'm a fervent fan. But that's one of the first anime I ever watched. So
mhm.
like, it's one of those things that for us, those have the nostalgia factor, whereas for the younger whippersnappers out there, this is going to be those animes for them. So it's really nice to see, that those animes getting those accolades,
Mhm.
whereas the ones that we had were never really recognized to that status or
True.
stature. Or when the attempts were made to do that, they were done poorly, aka the Dragon Ball movie.
Oh yeah, evolution.
Yeah, the,
But
the live action, yeah.
yeah, the live action was
Yep.
bad.
Mhm.
But I would say
Mhm.
too, with that one's just always a hard one to do because I mean, Goku is the most recognizable anime character. And
Yes.
like, there's a reason that until this past Thanksgiving, Goku was the only anime character who was on the Thanksgiving Macy Day parade.
Yeah. Well,
Like
I know Pikachu was out there, I think, at least once.
Pikachu, yeah, Pikachu, and like it's kind of crazy. That's a whole different subject for another day. There's a lot of
Yeah.
Americans who don't consider Pokemon
I
anime because
know. Oh
they don't want
my
that
God. Oh,
stigma. But if we're being
okay.
factually correct, then yes, Pikachu, Goku are the
Hmm.
two most recognizable anime characters in history.
Yes.
And you can walk down the street and you can show someone Goku and you'll more likely know that's Goku, or like
They'll have seen it
he's
before. They'll recognize it somehow.
mhm, he's a whole different level of stuff, and he's pop culture, like the dragon, like they are culture, and that's what we're trying to promote with these new gen animes. We're trying to get them
Mhm.
to that, like
That
that
level, that
type of
solidification of like once,
hmm
I don't want to say once your anime is over because it's not true that all of these older gen anime are over, but it's like I kind of stepped away from the scene, so correct me if I'm wrong,
hmm
but it seemed like there was like a lull in like not Dragon Ball Z's popularity, but in its presence of like new media coming out.
oh yeah, it stopped. I mean, with GT it stopped, and then it was because again the story was over. Everyone thought it was over, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have 10 years later, Battle of Gods came out. That
Mm-hmm.
movie did well. And then Resurrection F came out. That movie did well. They're like, all right, we know at the end of Dragon Ball Z, Goku takes Ooh, blah, blah, but we have this 10-year gap. Let's make a new story.
Put it in there.
Yeah,
And
and
they
then
knew
that's
that
where
they
it's
could
been.
because the fan base is so dedicated, that culture is there. I don't necessarily doubt that, if My Hero, ends a story and comes up with a sequel or even doing a prequel series, spin-off series of what's the other manga that Horikoshi has, Vigilantes,
Hmm.
doing that. Like I don't think necessarily that My Hero fans wouldn't come back out of the woodwork if there
Oh,
was a
yeah.
very long pause. I think we are to that level. I know I am personally.
I think every fandom is because you brought up the word culty, and obviously, I mean, most people say things are cult, but it's like you look at things, the most popular things in the world have cult fan bases.
Hmm.
We can talk about, and she's talked about it last year. Shout out to Chelsea Hepper. I mean, Taylor Swift's fandom, the Swifties are a cult. Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just the way like some of these things
We just don't
are.
have the juice. We don't have the wine and the hazing part necessarily.
Yeah, so
You
it's
got to
just
deal
like
with a little bit of trolling here and there, but that's as much as that depends on how
uh,
hard you
that's
go in.
that's anime fans. That's a whole other thing for another day. That's fans picking fights with people on social media, knowing you're going to lose, but saying it to get the juice. Like
Hmm.
stuff like, again, it's easy to attack the top where you're like, oh, something I don't want to pick on My Hero. No fan's done this, but just since we're talking My Hero, oh, Detroit Smash is a more iconic anime move than the Kamehameha wave. You know you're
Oh yeah,
wrong,
like that. Yeah, you would just
but you
you'd be
get
putting it
but
out there
that's
for
the
the
thing.
reaction, right?
You go for the reaction. There's a whole bunch of times where that stuff pops up and you're just like, okay, but shout out to My Hero getting nominated for that. It's a big deal. And so then
Hmm.
also what happened December a couple of weeks ago, the official My Hero Academia season 7 trailer came out. It actually leaked a day or so early, then it got
Right.
taken down, then back. First trailer didn't even waste any time. The first season 7 starts May 4th. So
Hmm.
literally 4 months from now.
Taking
Um
over the Star Wars holiday, actually.
hmm But then My Hero is going to have the 4 bonus episodes if you're interested in that. Just recaps they've done it before, airing starting April 6th. These episodes will serve as a recap to events leading to season 7. You can
Hmm.
watch those, or spoiler alert, you can listen to the April podcast that we're going to do because that one is going to be full preview of season 7, our thoughts, things of that, all of
Yep.
that. So be on the lookout for April. And then also the My Hero Academia movie, their fourth one,
Fourth
title,
movie.
date, still be determined, to be determined. It's a rumor that it's gonna be sometime between like the times of season 6. It's
Yeah,
supposed
but
to come out this summer.
that's
So
that's the part that throws me off that I'm like, really this summer? Like, damn. Damn. All right. All right.
so I don't know how good it will be, but I mean their movies have been good. Which I also want to think for like the new gen animes out there. My Hero is really about to be on its seventh season and
Mm-hmm.
fourth movie.
Movie.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it is. And I'm also just like super excited because the way when season 6 was amping up, in my
Hmm.
personal opinion, I thought we were going to get more. I didn't think it was going to be essentially a 1 day battle.
Hmm.
I thought it was going to be a long, drawn out, there were going to be multiple battles, whatever. So, season 7, in my mind, since I don't read the manga, I really thought potentially season 7 was it. But with the way the trailer, gave its little teasers, plus if this was the last season, I do believe the marketing would have been done a little differently. So I'm excited that it seems like season 7 is not actually the end. And I really, really thought it was going to be after season 5 finished.
That's another thing with this new generation of anime. They're ending a lot shorter than
Yes.
like this is near the end. The Demon Slayer manga has already been over. The anime
Over.
is close to the end. Like
Yep.
all these different. There's a Jujutsu Kaisen the mangas near the end. Like all these new gen mangas, they're like
Short,
quick,
sweet, to the point.
but they may have learned from like the older like the
Hmm.
Kishimoto's, the Toriyamas, and all stuff that maybe it is good to end it short because these companies are just going to come back to you in a couple of years saying, "Hey,
We
we made
want
a lot of
more.
money.
Hmm.
Let's make a sequel." You don't want to burn yourself out.
True.
It's hard to say no to all these millions of dollars and all the licensing that you're going to get from
Yep.
all the stuff. So it is crazy. But so today's thing, like Andrea said at the beginning, first week of the new year, we're recording this. So obviously, people have New Year's resolutions.
Yep.
So what we're going to do, we're going to go through a couple of people, a couple of groups, and within the story. So I want to really emphasize that. Obviously, it's not like us saying blah 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 the resolution of this, but like if we're in that world, what's happening right now, end of season
Hmm.
6, season 7,
Yep.
and it just became New Year after everything they've been through. What
Right.
should that character or group's New Year's resolution be within the story context? Just for the disclaimer out there for people to listen to know
Hmm.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the apology tour press conference trio. Um, the number 1, 2, and 3 hero, Endeavor, Hawks, Blue Genist. Obviously, you saw them become a trio. They were doing all the stuff they
Hmm.
were doing.
Yep.
What should that group's resolution be going into season 7?
To me, I really think their resolution as a group, I know you kind of called it like the apology tour, what is that called? The penitence, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Um, their main thing, and I mean, Endeavor has already said it multiple times, is to atone. But I think as a group, because truly, I don't think there's very much that Blue Genus needs to apologize for. But as a group, as the top 3 heroes, as those remaining kind of punctured columns of peace, um, I think they really need to reinforce the foundation and the structures of the future generations help to restore that belief in heroes if they choose to truly keep like a fully hero system, which is I think something I'll touch on a little bit later with a different group. um, but really laying the foundation of like Engie really sticking to like leading them through this war, helping them get through that, and then he's done. Hawks, I would like to still see him be a hero after all this is said and over. And I know this is getting a little past like a year's resolution. Um, but I really think as a group, their resolution is to get through, see the light at the end of the tunnel, and help to build the new heroes, the fledgling heroes, or justice seekers. I'm not sure what they would be called if things are going, how much things would change after the revelations that have come out. But just really, yeah, help set a solid foundation going forward instead of putting everything back exactly how it was before, because
So,
then that just sets up, you know set it back up just to fall back down.
so I'm gonna take all the things you said and agree with them
Mhm.
and put it in 10 words or less.
Got
The
it.
the three of
All
them
right.
need the three of them need to be the pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Just that they got to be the pillars. All the stuff you said, lifting it up, all that, rebuilding, all that, they need to be the pillars. I know
Mm-hmm.
you said with the stuff with Endeavor, but after this being done, you said Hawks, you want him to continue being here. I honestly think it's going to be harder for Hawks than Endeavor because Hawks got shown killing a villain who was crying for mercy on live TV. That ain't gonna, that's not sitting well. Like, that's bad. He was crying. He was not fighting back. He was crying. So,
Only in that video,
but
though.
that's all you
That's
need.
that's all
That's all you
You're
need.
right. You're right. It's just. Mm.
Like, that's tough. You're
It's one of
supposed to
those
be the
things
better
that for
person.
me, I would hope, and maybe it's naive, but for me, I would hope after the press conference, he does explain that he had to eliminate him because of the threat that he posed. Like, he's sorry that, of the methods that were used or that, but it's also one of those things where I feel like Hawks has enough star power and charisma that a lot of people would be willing to overlook it. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing per se, but I feel like his epiphany about like how he just kind of left his mom behind, that it was his fault that his identity was discovered and all that other good stuff, because he essentially abandoned somebody that he should have protected. So he wants to become like like a true hero, an honest hero, like. And I think he should be allowed to at least attempt, if the what's it called, public ain't feeling it. I don't think he would fight against it per se. I think he would probably lend support in some sort of like kind of street level gauging how things are going, how people are feeling, just to be involved. Because I don't think he would purposely take a back seat and just let everything unfold. I think he would still want to help people to an extent. Although his ultimate goal, so probably his ultimate resolution still, is to create a world where heroes have too much time on their hands because there's not crime, villainous activities, all of these things going on. So that's a very lofty goal.
Yeah, the thing was just him killing that person, like them seeing that clip, and obviously society, once you see that sort of stuff. But I would also say he's fighting against, all of them are fighting against going back to November 2021, the L7C podcast, because you're going to have millions of people saying All Might wouldn't have killed him. And then going back to, was All Might being the symbol piece actually bad for the My Hero Academia world? Case study by Andrea
Oh
Alanis back
man,
in
yes.
February 2021. So that's
One of
what
my
people are going to
favorite little
say.
golden nuggets. I do love the fact that I did that episode because I had no idea. I had no idea. I just like
That was 2021. Now that's
it
almost,
was.
that
It
is
was.
is about to be 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
So just saying, that's what they're going to have to face. Like, and then number two, the My Hero Academia Japan government.
Right.
So for me, I think
Mm-hmm.
that they gotta uproot that whole, and I mean the whole executive, legislative, judicial, the police, everything. They gotta
Mm-hmm.
reevaluate. They gotta rescreen, kick people out, bring people in. And the
Right.
reason I bring that up is because, man, I don't remember the exact percentage of little snakes that were in the entire government and the police force and
Right.
all that. I just
Mm-hmm.
remember that army having 100,000 people and
Yep.
us seeing that episode where that clown hero was on his little scooter thing helping the people, but then he was a freaking libertarian army person over there,
Yep.
liberation army. So
Yep.
they gotta uproot the bad, man, because I don't think that's all of them are, there's still probably some secret sleeper agents in there, and
Right.
they gotta change.
Right. And that's, I agree. Like I actually hadn't thought to the extreme of like ousting everybody and just starting from scratch. But part of starting from scratch is starting with new attitudes. And that's something that's extremely hard
Mhm.
to weed out. Like you can do all the legislation you want, you can do all of the like the talking, the motions. But if people are really dead set on feeling a certain type of way about certain types of things, and the thing that comes to my mind is we don't see it too much actually, like blatantly
Mhm.
in My Hero, but from what I understand, it's more touched on in Vigilantes, is the prejudice around heteromorphs beyond the whole like, oh, you look scary, but like when that really tall like bunny girl, I
Oh
mean, the
yeah.
comment about like, well, she should have known better looking like that coming out at night. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you expect us to react when you look like that? And that
Mm-hmm.
insinuation of like, because you don't look fully human, quote unquote, because of your quirk, therefore you are a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the extension of like, okay, stereotyping quirks, like Shinsho having a quote unquote villainous type quirk, and he's flipping that as like, no, I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to be a hero with this quirk. But if you were to perceive him on the street, you wouldn't have that initial reaction until you knew his quirk. Whereas she just walks down the street and people would be afraid potentially, or just
Yep.
because they're hyper aware. I mean, this was all a very stressful situation, but like all of that stuff that under those underpinnings of feelings and biases and innate fear around certain individuals based on things that they can't control needs to stop.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. They basically, I mean, it's basically they had Hydra in their stuff. In
They did.
everything. In
Mm-hmm.
everything. Like it's just utterly ridiculous that it was able to get to that point and no one really noticed until Hawks went undercover X amount of
Mm-hmm.
years later and it came out to a war and it's
Right.
still going. So like it needs to change. Like the people who are in power, if you weren't able to see this, you gotta go. Like
Yep.
they need new leadership and
Mm-hmm.
top to bottom because whatever you had in place to again go back to your February of 2021 episode, they're like, ah, who gives a shit? All Might's here, he'll take care of it. But
Right.
when All Might left and retired, I don't feel like the government changed. Like they didn't.
Nope. Nope. They were. It was kind of that false sense of security of like All Might's always going to be around. Like
Mm-hmm,
what, what humanness, what human, fallibility did he ever show anybody? He never seemed to take a break. Yeah, sure, he would get, cuts, bruises, bleed a little bit, but nobody ever saw the extent of his injuries after that, debilitating
99%
blow.
of the population didn't even know his real name.
Right. So and that's one of the few, like, honestly, going back to your whole point about like why do we know these people's names?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, Endeavor had a villain roll up on his house
Oh, Yellow
because he was
Pages.
obsessed with him and called him by his name.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what happened to the whole? Are we supposed to do secret identities here, or are we not? Because then, what's the point of a hero name if you don't have a secret identity
Mm-hmm.
other than just to identify or like have a cute name for the public to remember, or like what your quirk is, how you help people, whatever. I don't dislike hero names. That's not my point. It's just if to me, hero names were always kind of as a way to protect your civilian identity. And I guess maybe that's also part of why people didn't see All Might as, you know,
Especially
ever
knowing.
a civilian is because nobody ever interacted with him as such.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he
So,
because it's funny too. Like if you can just go to someone's house, I understand why the League of Villains just don't go blowing up people's houses.
right. Like, there's some extremes that Horikoshi just for the story just completely is like, yeah, no, that would be a little, that's a little too much stacked on their side. But truly, like, overall, could have just all the top heroes' houses
Mm-hmm.
destabilize them just randomly,
Shigaraki can go blow up Midoriya's house right now.
well, yeah. Honestly, I don't know how well he's still recovering and not at max percentage, but technically speaking, as soon as he knew it was Midoriya, technically speaking, instead of going to the mall and being like, if I put all my fingers down, you're dead, you could have just like you could have done it regardless of your conversation with him, because like that's what most bad guys do. Stereotypically is like, oh, I got the information, I'm not letting you go, lol, jk. Or could have just like sniped him in his house, been like, all right, night night.
Yeah, I mean that's the point of secret identities. I mean that's the whole superhero trope premise from 1939 with Superman. The
Right.
reason is to separate you from the other stuff, so you protect the people you care about. Because once people know who you are,
They're
they
gonna
can
go
just
after him.
yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
can just go after them, and then that gives you another weakness that you don't One. So yeah, the government, their government needs to uproot. Now the other one, the World Hero Association, they, out of respect, are terrible. I
Yes.
liked them. I really liked the role in the third movie. I guess they only show up when there's nuclear weapons in hand. I think
Right.
that's the only reason they show up. Maybe, but
Right.
I, I just
When it's world level threats, it seems like, or like terroristic threats that could be impacting the world versus just one or two countries. Because then it seems like they might be like collaborating off outside of the main council, I guess. Because to me, I don't know if it is actually a reference to Nick Fury and is it the council?
yeah,
Like,
that council.
yeah, like when he calls on them and then they're doing their whole bureaucratic spiels and he's like, you know, what's that line? It's
He's reached a decision. They've reached a decision, but since it's a stupid ass
was it just a
decision, I'm going
decision?
to ignore it.
Yep.
I it's just wild because
And that's okay. The reason I bring that up is that's how I felt right before the US's representative said that is it Stars and Stripes?
yes,
That Stars and Stripes had already took off with the fucking fleet without permission. It's like, thank you.
well,
You
I have
pulled the
a
Nick Fury. Like,
the problem I have with that, which I was the problem I have with that is she pulled off because in her quote, my master is the one who requested this. I can't let him down.
right,
All Might.
right,
All Might shouldn't be the one having to call people when the world's a fucking crisis.
right.
Like that.
Why is All Might the man with the world on his shoulders? Like
And my thing
whole
is,
world.
here's the thing
Atlas.
too.
That's that name, Atlas.
Yeah. So if All Might died before this season,
Mm-hmm.
would Stars and Stripes show up? Because she only said because All Might called. That's the problem.
That's a good point. That's a
going back to
very,
the
very, very, very good point. Ooh,
going
ooh,
back
ooh,
to the All
ooh.
Might thing. Like if he, because that's her quote, word for
Yep.
word.
Yep.
My master is calling, and we talked about it a little bit. But for people who don't know, in the My Hero, the first movie where you see young All Might
Mm-hmm.
save the girl and her sister in the car,
Yep.
that girl grows up to be Stars and Stripes.
Yep.
So, which is great how they connected the first movie to
To
this and
this,
all
yeah.
that. But that's my problem. Like, if he was dead, there would have been no one of respect to call. Um,
Stars and Stripes and have that pull. Not unless,
and she's not the only one coming.
no.
I already know that from a technological standpoint. There, I love the girl in the class 1C, pink hair. She's very I'm blanking.
Oh, Hatsume.
Hatsume. I love her. She's great. But All Might called America, which means Melissa's coming to help too.
Yeah.
So that's my problem. If he's dead, there's no one of there's no
No
one
one's
make
calling. Yeah, no one's
and they're not
calling.
coming because it's not
Yeah.
All Might.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't say the world's in danger like any superhero, like I need to go do my duty. All Might called.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pulling up.
Yep.
That
It's that
simple.
serious, so I'm showing up. So like it would have been most likely, you're totally right. She probably would have waited for bureau the bureaucratic tape to be cleared, which is part of what the whole meeting was about, was like, oh, we can't process the paperwork fast enough to send all our heroes. And I don't remember which hero it was that they show on screen. They show two of them actually
Mm-hmm.
that are upset that their government won't let them go. And then they turn to America and they're like, oh well, huh. She already took off. Like
Or
we couldn't stop her. But the whole thing is like, okay, you're right. I hadn't really put that together until this moment. She wouldn't have jumped, because All Might wasn't there to say jump. And so then where would these reinforcements be coming from? How long would it take for anyone to agree to that help? And
or they don't agree. Or they do real life thing and they let
have a
Japan
couple of
fall.
them just
Not
sit back and be like, nah, fuck
It's
that.
not my country. Like when it gets to my country, I'll deal with it when it comes to the States. I'll deal with it when it goes to Egypt. But
Mm-hmm.
that's Japan. They ain't got nothing to do with me. Like that's what I feel like most of these places were like. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
awful. Until he crosses that ocean, nothing to do with me.
Until he makes it a worldwide threat,
Mm-hmm.
we're not stepping in. And it's like, but because some people would say, like, is Japan asking for help? Yes, clearly Japan has already asked for help. Because some people would say, like, you don't get to insert yourself into another country's issues because you want things to play out the way that benefits you. Okay, fair point. But in this situation, yes, Japan is requesting that help. They've already contacted y'all saying, we need help. He is a massive threat to society, meaning just like as a whole. But since Shigaraki has not specifically stated once he conquers Japan, he's going for everything, at least publicly, because we have heard him say that. Or is it All for One said that?
All for One wants to take over the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He's the one that said it. So are they aware that he's out? Like, they do. They know that, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. So then I don't know why. Because essentially during that meeting, they even bring up that All for One has sympathizers and connections in all of these different countries. So it's like, are you waiting for him to just like, give his villainous monologue to the world that he's coming after everybody?
Here's what I think with All for One, because he's smart. He's smart. I mean, he's always been doing this for 1 billion years. Here's my thoughts with the sleepers. Obviously, his main thing, take over the world, yada, yada, yada. To take over the world, he's got to kill the One for All users. He's killed all of them until All Might. All Might's the only one who's ever beaten him twice. And then it got passed down to Midoriya. Obviously, All for One did a shit with Shigaraki. So his thing is like, if I'm him, once the All for One user is dead, there is no one on the planet who can stop us. Then I could activate my sleeper agents across the world. We take over, and then they're just like, damn.
LOL. Like what threat is that? Like Madara pulling up, like, these are the Kage, bitch.
Like nothing. Everything went to shit when All Might retired. It's just
it did. Honestly, you kind of setting that up of like, once Japan's conquered, then we'll like worry about it. The One for All users dead, like then we'll step in.
And it didn't get passed up, and it didn't get passed away too.
Right.
That's the other thing too. He keeps killing these people, and they keep passing it on. He's gonna make sure when Midoriya is dead, it didn't get passed on to anybody.
Right, that it's done. Or he takes it for himself, which is his primary goal. But that whole scenario kind of, I just had a mental flashback to. It's not exactly the same situation, but York New City. When the countries unleash, what is it, like the 12 letter beasts or something like that? I don't remember what
they were terrible.
Yes, thank you. That they were like the 12 most powerful hunters in the world, and they can, level any threat like by themselves. And then I'm really bad with names right now.
The Phantom Drop killed them all.
It was just one dude. It was just one dude from the Phantom Troop. Not all of them. Not a couple of them. One.
The one guy, and then Kuropachi killed him.
And then Kuropachi walked up like, bitch, try me. I brought my own shovel. Like, and fuck you.
And killed him.
And that's the whole thing where I'm just like, these governments seem to always be written and set up, but honestly, in the potential real world applications, they overestimate the power that their players bring to a situation without fully recognizing the power that the problem actually has.
I mean, there's going to be, I think it's funny because you brought up that, but there's going to be another anime that they don't have if they had if we saw their governing body, they would have a same, which I think is actually a real topic that's going to be discussed in the coming seasons. Demon Slayer. Like if the government knew everything about demons,
right?
All that stuff, knew moves and stuff, knew he was looking for the blue flower, whatever the hell it is, and knew that once he gets if he gets something, he can survive in sunlight, it's game over. If the government knew that Nezuko Kamado, at the end of spoilers, at the end of season 3, survived that sunlight, and Muzan knows, and now the rest of the Demon Slayer manga world is Nezuko cannot get to Muzan or the show is over, or everyone dies. If the government knew that, they would be sitting here having a conversation. Do we imprison Nezuko under our protection?
Right.
Or do we kill her?
And that's the primary question from like episode 1, 2, and 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen. So
yeah, well, I mean, I mean, that's the same thing too. Like, I'm pretty sure the Hashira, I'm pretty sure in the first couple of episodes, that is going to be the Hashira meeting.
Hmm.
If they all find out that Nezuko can survive, they know Muzin's coming. What do you do? And it is like from a real life perspective, it's a really hard philosophical
It is.
thing. And now it's like the same with them. But yeah, the World Hero Association, I think they're terrible. It's just like I just don't understand where they're at in this stuff. Like All for One basically made a mini clone, Nine, who was actually really strong.
Right.
What if those are all of his sleeper agents in different countries? What if they're a whole bunch of nines? Like like you see Shigaraki doing all this stuff. You see all this.
And there were plenty of tests. Nine set the precedent that there were test subjects to basically build Shigaraki. So how many test subjects were there? Is it that he's 9 because he had 9 quirks and then all the previous iteration had less? Or did they keep continuing and have, 10, 11, 12, whatever?
I also want to know who is the number one hero in the world? When Endeavor became number
With All
one,
Might out of the picture, I do want to know that as well. Because I think
Endeavor's the number one hero in
thinking,
Japan. That's what
right,
they deemed him as. Stars and Stripes the number one
right,
hero in America.
America,
When All Might was number one, they never said he was the number one hero in Japan. They said he was the number one hero in the
the
world.
world.
And he's
Right.
been that since he was active. So I'm wondering who is the number one hero in the world right now? And where the hell, if it's Endeavor, okay, we know. If it's Stars and Stripes, because they emphasize her at the end.
Here's my thing though. I'm really sorry, and this isn't to be like, oh, go Merca or whatever, but like, I really hope it is Stars and Stripes or somebody from the outside, because Endeavor's close, but like we need more people out there that come packing a little bit more punch than Endeavor, because and again, I have a limited imagination per se when it comes to figuring out future scenarios and how things play out and people getting power boosts and whatever. But Endeavor does not do well against Shigaraki at the level that he was at. He hadn't really done well with Dabi because of the whole emotional aspect of it. He didn't do well one-on-one with the high-end Nomus, almost dying.
Oh, at the end of season 4, Prominence Burn.
Like, we need somebody else to be the number one hero in the world, because we need somebody else with that level, that additional level of power over Endeavor. I'm sorry.
So the Shigaraki thing, the only thing I would push back on, I would have to really retrace the scenes in my head. If he was just normal Shigaraki and did not get all those modifications, he would have been dead.
Oh, true. No,
That's the thing.
Normal Shigaraki is not a problem. It's amped up, All for One vessel having all these multiple quirks and a body that's basically as strong as All Might, because he had to survive running from Gigantomachia for days on end with no sleep.
Yeah, so he has all those modifications, which is the problem, which obviously I still don't understand how all these quirks in One for All are going to beat him, but whatever. That's how the story's going to end some way or another. But my thing, it's just I wonder who the number one in the world is. I just feel like it's Endeavor or Stripes. I only feel like it's Endeavor because the show takes place in there. So.
Right.
But Stars and Stripes, America, they're not going to make the American number one hero week. But my thing, it goes back to the quote that, and I remember the episode title, Unrivaled, where Shoto is next to Eraser and he hasn't gotten his license yet. And he sees Lemillion beat the dog shit out of Class 1A without trying. And this is Eraser. This is the Kakashi, the Gojo, the whoever, the any sensei. He's that person of this series. And his exact quote was, "To Lemillion is the closest to being the new number one."
Yep.
That was his quote. And and he's seen Endeavor. Shit, he saw the Vigilantes in the past. Like, he's seen all these heroes. And he said that about, he's the strongest kid in their school. But, like, he said
But to make that comparison to being, like, if he, became a pro hero right now, he would be the number, like, he would.
Which is wild.
Right. And I don't doubt I don't doubt it's due to strength. I will just say also that technically speaking, the Japanese rankings are also based on popularity.
Yeah, that
And
does
I
play a
do
factor.
think Mirio's personality would put him on top alone, honestly, because who doesn't like a goofy, like simple,
Yeah,
just comical guy?
someone who's omega strong who doesn't take themselves serious.
Yes,
That's a good comedy. It's just when I watch that and listen to him say that, and he knows everyone, like
he
that's
does.
telling to me. That's weird. So next
And now
one.
that we know, and spoiler alert, if you're listening to this before finishing season 6, which I don't recommend doing, obviously, but he's back. His quirk
Yeah.
is back. So, like, you're totally right. I kind of forgot about Lemillion somehow, even though he's right on your shirt.
I know. Shout out to you. Christmas
um,
present.
yeah, it's a freaking badass design. But anyway, I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, truly, because potentially he would be the strongest soldier on the field. Maybe even more so than Stars and Stripes or any other international hero. But yeah, because I mean, he came on the scene and he completely flipped the tide of the battle 100%.
Oh yeah, you were talking about the Nomus. He literally showed up and punched three of them across the air.
Plain. Yep. Yep. And multiple heroes, pro heroes, were fighting each individual Nomu. And I mean, when we finally see him come through, I mean, it looked like Burnin was, if not a full goner, just like seriously injured and out of
Mhm.
the fight. So, he's huge. And actually, I would take that back that if it's not Endeavor, I think you're right, it would be Lemillion.
Problem is, All for One, he's so smart. He knows how the quirk works, and he
Yeah.
knows if worst
Oh,
comes to worst, he'll just shoot him with the bullet. I mean, Overhaul already had that, but then that goes into
right.
another thing where I still
How many bullets
think,
are left? Actually, now that we're talking about that, are there 2 bullets left?
I
Because remember,
to our knowledge, we
well,
don't know
as
if
of
it
right
was.
now, because they were making more, and then
Hmm.
there were more made, but then when the laboratory was destroyed, some of the capsules were broken. So I think there were only 3, and then Shigaraki shot Eraserhead with one of
Yeah,
them. So I think technically there's only 2.
you never know with All for One in the back. You saw the prison breakout. You've seen you only have X amount of days before you get to 100%. They can't beat them. But
True.
next one is the group.
Okay.
I called them the Class 1A castaways because it's everyone in Class 1A besides Midoriya, Bakugo, Shoto, Uraraka, and Froppy because
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure those five, the big three, the seniors, we're
Hmm.
going to talk about them heavily in April of what those people are probably going to be the keys. But
Hmm.
so I took them off on purpose. But this is the group because this whole group had one shot, take
As
out
a group,
Maki,
yep. Hmm.
and they failed. It's the real first time this group in a long time have really saw that this is not a game.
Yeah, this isn't kids play.
Midnight died. They one of my
They walked up
favorite.
on her body. They
Yeah.
did.
One of my favorite manga panels that I've seen and from the show is Momo in the front with all of them like that look of despair, like, oh my God,
My
like
God.
people are like really dying. Like this isn't class. And that whole group gotta get better, man.
They do.
They gotta do something like because Midori and them aren't gonna be able to fight all these people by themselves. I don't know how many other heroes are coming with Stars and Stripes, but you're the main group. You know what's going on now. You're part of Class 1A versus Midoriya. You all talked about your feelings. You want to bring Midoriya back. I don't know if you know that truth. Like, are you guys going to be, when the League of Villains are face to face, are you going to be ready to take them out?
Right.
And there's individuals in here, obviously, like Mina, Momo,
Yeah.
like all of them, Ida, like all of them. But
I'm still so disappointed in Mina because
that
she
was bad.
really
That was real.
had
That
that
fumble that.
opportunity. And I mean, obviously the story wasn't written this way, but technically speaking, if she would have gotten hers off and Kirishima still held on to his, they could have double dosed him. So maybe he
Hmm.
would have been down faster.
Yeah.
So like, and also to me, with the whole possibility of like him going down faster if he had gotten more doses, my thing is like, Momo, why didn't you make a poison that was, concentrated enough in one dose to put him down quickly. And I don't know the technical time span between when that happened and when he made it through places. Because I mean, he was there. They had his ETA in like 10 minutes. So it's not even like it was slow acting.
Yeah.
It's just such a short amount. So much damage was done in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's just like, fuck.
Yeah, they all had this. No, I'll find. I have it saved because that picture is just really good. They basically had the Star-Lord "Did we lose" face from Infinity War, because it was just like millions of people, thousands of people just died because we couldn't stop this thing. Our teacher is dead, and like we
couldn't do anything. Like we were
powerless.
Right. It's we are coming face to face with our own mortality, our own I don't want to say insufficiencies, own
realization of where you're at on the pecking. Yeah, where you're at on the pecking order.
That too. How, and how quickly things can change. So because to them, they got that poison in. Yeah, he was still on the move, but to them, potentially they were still in a like generally winning mindset. Even though they knew that front force had been broken through, we got the poison, or the anesthetic or whatever it was, into Gigantomachia. It was a struggle, but we were able to pull it off. Now let's go regroup. And your regroup is dead. And that actually, saying that makes me think about one of my favorite Disney movies, Mulan. When Shang rolls up, expecting to meet his father's army because he's expecting them to have won and still exist. They get there and they don't.
Yeah.
And that heavy feeling, that emotional weight. Yeah, it's really beautifully well done, and shown in the manga panel as well as the anime. I do prefer the manga panel.
Yeah.
It's just more stark.
Yeah. They got to do something, man. And they're not the only ones. Your whole country, this goes to the next group. Cammy's high school.
Right. Where was Shiketsu?
Yeah, Shiketsu. Their resolution is, when your country's being destroyed, please help.
Right.
Please help.
Hey, by the way.
Yeah.
BT Dubs, future heroes, we need you. So, and again, is it like we're keeping them safe because we think what we have now is sufficient? And again, that goes back to my point earlier of like underestimating the power and the threat. Like, is it beneficial thinking to, keep certain players off the board, in case push comes to shove? But it's not necessarily the thinking that Shiketsu high school students or more of class 1B are the aces in the hole. So it's more so just, I'm pretty sure, just a storytelling, choice to limit the scope. And also just kind of have more of an Avengers, assemble moment later on when everybody shows up.
Well, everyone should have showed up as soon as they said that army had 100,000 people.
Yes. Agreed.
Once I heard that number,
150%. Yep. Yeah. They also, honestly, in my personal opinion, I think they should have suspended the need for a hero's license to use quirks. If you have a medicinal quirk, because that's another point that, again, if you don't have a hero's license, you cannot legally use your quirk. So say, what's that little kid's name with the cell regeneration from the third?
Oh, is it Kodo? No, it's not Kodo. What the hell? Is it Kodo? I thought it started with a K. I'll look it up, but continue your...
It's something like that, but that he like somebody with a quirk like him, I'm not necessarily saying children, but adults that have like healing abilities, healing quirks, would have been allowed to voluntarily, not forcefully, but voluntarily come to the forefront, or even medical professionals that might have, gone into medicine because they have a medicinal quirk, even though they can't use it if they're not a hero, be allowed to use those things to help heal and help the heroes potentially bounce back faster. Because normal medicine is slow, which is why the story has Recovery Girl.
It's Katsuma.
Katsuma, that's right. Thank you.
Yep, his ability
Katsuma.
cell activation allows him to heal a person's wounds as well as improve their physical performance in an alarmingly quick rate. Drains
Exactly.
his stamina, becomes very exhausted. Um, Been shown to work on people of type O, A, and B blood. Unlike
Yep.
his father's version of the quirk, Katsuma cell activation isn't limited to one specific blood type, so he has more advantages than his father.
Right. And so his father no longer has the quirk, but his father would be an example of like, okay, maybe he can only do it for, heroes that have type B blood, but B is not necessarily a rare blood type. So then people could have put out that call, like, do you have a quirk that can help heal people? If you do and you're willing, please come and help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I just don't understand why they weren't there. I still to this day, your whole country is getting ragdolled. Your country's no man's land. There's no laws. The villains just ran amok. Dobby
Mm-hmm.
exposed the whole system on
Right.
national TV. So
Yep.
it's like, why aren't you out there helping? Why aren't you out there fighting Mr. Windboy, who had an issue with the Endeavor family? You should have
Right.
been out there fighting. And that
Right.
goes with Class B, Shinsho, all of it. We're the still to this
Where
day.
was
It's been
Shinsho and Monoma? Like,
10
what
months,
the
10 months.
fuck?
10 months still wondering where they were at in the fight. So, and then the last one, who may be the most intriguing,
Mm-hmm.
Stain. What
Yes.
is,
His resolution,
yeah,
is to shut down. I mean, he's not necessarily in a villain. Like we saw him not be on the villain side per se.
mm-hmm.
He wants pure heroism. He wants pure justice.
No money making, no TVs, no advertisement, no
Right.
commercials, none of that.
Exactly. He wants everyone to be an All Might. He wants everyone to go into it for completely pure reasons, have no sorts of biases or impulsive, uh, or I'm sorry, not impulsive, but like selfish desires in why they do hero work or acting on their, selfish impulses. Because we know Ida didn't want to become a hero for a selfish reason,
Mm-hmm.
but his brother gets hurt. So here he is,
Yep.
angry and vengeful and acting on that in his capacity as a hero going after Stain.
Yep.
So that type of stuff. So for him, he's going to be honestly taking out most of, I think we won't see him in the coordinated effort, but we might see him cutting out some strays.
Probably going to be the biggest wild card.
Yes.
He's going to be the big wild card. What's he going to do?
Well, he is. He always is. He was in season 6 because we're like, oh, I mean, I was never afraid, but I'm sure some people saw that scene of like, oh shit, he's actually going to kill All Might right now. Like,
mm-hmm.
Oh my God. But ultimately, to me, the most consistent thing about him and the resolution I know he will have till the day he dies is that All Might is the one to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said it. He is worthy. All Might's gonna be the one to kill him. He told All Might, so like, come find me and end me. Like,
it's just wild because All For One plans forever. Like, he is just a chess piece that I just don't think All For One's just going to let run willy nilly.
No, but I also feel like All For One isn't willing to sacrifice big pieces to put him down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like, I don't know why I'm on such a Disney kick today, but I'm thinking of now Hercules,
mm-hmm.
Hades, throwing out his entire like uprising army at Hercules just because Hercules is the wild card of like, he's going to be my downfall. So he throws all his, allies and big guns, other than the Titans, of course, at Hercules ahead of time. And Hercules lays them all out. So he doesn't really have much of a supporting army anymore. All For One is not that dumb. So he might try to get rid of him, but he's not going to be throwing like Dobby out there or Mr. Compress, or like, he's not going to try to move his key players and generals. He might throw villains that we're not aware of at him.
Well, if you're going to continue the Hercules thing, and all it takes is one Meg, and then Hercules was done. So
I mean, sure. That's
So
true.
if All for One gets Meg for staying, and then he wheels her in, then takes him. I mean, that's all it
But
takes for
that's the
that.
thing. Who's the Meg for Stain? It's All Might. That's it. Like he's so one track minded. It is
He is.
actually technically he also has a soft spot for Midoriya because Midoriya is also worthy.
Yeah.
So it's one of those two.
Yeah.
Honestly, now that we set that up, if Midoriya is in trouble and Stain's around, Stain might be the one to come and save him in the end. I wonder if it'll be set up where All Might tries to do it but fails, and then in the last split second that it's Stain. Oh my god.
That'd be crazy.
That would be
We'll
nuts.
see. Well, that was actually the last person for people with the resolution. Andrea, anything else you wanted to talk about?
Uh I I don't think so, not necessarily. I just think the more we talked about, their resolutions and how it would play within their world, it gets, my thoughts going about season 7 and just makes me that much more excited that it's around the corner. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy. I'm excited. I'm excited to have kind of a weekly serialized show to watch with my dad. Um, Again, catch him back up and then watch that as it comes out. Oh my goodness. I'm just so excited for more of My Hero content. I mean, the are they called OSTs? Oh,
Yeah.
the OST, like the baseball game, and what was the other one?
They did the card battle one.
Right, that's
That
right.
just came out. Yep.
Yeah, so the card, like those were cute. Like those are kind of like little hors d'oeuvres to hold me over for new content. It, but I'm ready for the main course. I'm ready for the new season. Like, thank you for not having longer than a year break. But like, if it could come out faster, I would like it to.
No, I understand. But it's still just crazy how they're on 7. Like
Mm-hmm.
that still just blows my mind that they're on season 7. It
Me
just
too. And when again, I don't recall what happens in each season very well, honestly. Like off the top of my head, I have to think about it for a little bit. But thinking back to myself, okay, what happens in every season? So much has happened that it feels like there could have been more than just 7. Like if they really had wanted to like push in a couple more filler episodes or really drag out a couple events, they really could have had more seasons. I'm glad that they didn't because I personally am kind of tired of filler episodes. I kind of like that these new gen animes kind of really stick to the story and don't put around the plot and kind of really get to it. They'll have a couple like, lighthearted, silly episodes, but not anything arc wise like we were traumatized with Naruto Shippuden with. So love the show. I don't know how many more rewatches all the way through I have for that show, for those two shows technically.
Well, I mean, now with just on Naruto thing, obviously they're in the Boruto thing, and now they've time skipped, so things have gotten more interesting. A lot more interesting is just the fact that the Boruto stuff to get there, and they were just like, all right, F this, it's time to just go the time skip. I did find the manga panel because I do want to go back to this and like really harp on this. The Stars and Stripes, cape in the air, on the fighter jet, hands on
Superhero
her hips.
pose.
Yep.
Yep.
Did not say the country or the world is in trouble. My master's in a pickle. Why would I think twice? That's it.
Yeah.
Master was dead. She wouldn't be there.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, that kind of reminds me of flippant is not the right word, but kind of like a joking attitude, like a carefree attitude. So I wonder if part of the reason for that attitude is just kind of like, of course I would be there for him, but also in a way, such a way that it's like, of course I would be there for him, but of course I would be there for, the world, or at least I would hope so. I would hope so. But technically speaking, you're right. That was a perfect opportunity to say, the world's in trouble. Why wouldn't I show up?
Yep. And even different translations from my master's in a pickle or my master's in trouble. We can't waste a moment's time. Like it's all to All Might.
Directed to All Might, right?
So we'll see. So we're back on the track. We're getting to that April. We already know the April episode is going to be the big season 7 preview, but we got some other months. We got February and March. So, Andrea, are there anything that's popping in your head that you want to talk about in February?
So I kind of had a brief idea of doing. It would require, on my part, more research into the Vigilante series, talking more about, because February in the United States is Black History Month.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of Black history, unfortunately, is, tied to prejudice, bias, systematic oppression. So I wondered if we kind of wanted to do an episode diving into, like, more deeply, I guess. I mean, we did touch on it this episode, and I brought it up before. And I mean, My Hero had their version of the KKK show up for a brief second, in the series and in the third movie. So I don't know if we want to do something like that, because my only other thought for February is always Valentine's, and we already been there, done that, and I really haven't updated my ships so far. So, that's all I had. I hadn't really thought about March, because when I think March, I think spring break. I think, well, would you want to do like a My Hero bracket? March Madness? Bring other people on and do like a 4-week My Hero.
I think the problem with that is that to make it really like interesting, you'd have to take a lot of people out.
That's true. That is
like, if we did, just for example, if we just did, because we did do those mixed match tag teams back in the day.
Those are fun.
But if we did like Class 1A, you'd have to take out those 5.
Yeah.
And then even if you take out those 5, you're like, all right, then it's probably Dark Shadow, who probably, or Kirishima. Like, if you keep the 5 in, the final round is going to be Midoriya versus Bakugo.
Right.
Like, it's just like, I think that's the problem with that type of stuff, because like, and if we do more about the other school, that would be really cool to put in.
We just don't know enough about all of them.
And we already did, and we saw the damn, in season 5, those team ups, like they were just beating the hell out of teams, and we did the mixed match and stuff. So it's something we'll think about. It's just hard now, because now it's past season 6, and the power gap between the strongest of Class 1A and everyone else is just so large now.
Right. And we have no idea what the other seniors are like. We only know the big 3. We only know 3 of the seniors. Obviously, there's more than 3 freaking seniors at UA. Right. And then what about the second years? There's it doesn't go.
It's weird. That is weird.
To the big 3, like, that's not how that works. So like, where are those students at? Are we going to get introduced to them, or are they just going to kind of be like thrown back there in the background of like, yeah, Class 2A is here, yeah, Class 2B is here, but they're all just like, generically thrown in the background superheroes. Like,
no, that's actually a really good point. How we know Class 1A.
Yep.
We know 3 seniors who just happen to be the 3 strongest people in the school.
Right.
We know no second years, none.
Nope.
And we know no other seniors. You can't tell me those other seniors are that weak.
Right. Right. You can't, because again, even with your comment of taking the top 5 out, you still have the ability to talk about Kirishima, Fumikage, right? Dark Shadow, and Denki.
And Momo.
Denki was pulled to the front because his quirk was super fucking useful.
Yeah.
Like, if he was off the board, if he really said no, if he really couldn't do it, that whole front line was down.
He had that was his best moment. Like, and who gave him that pep? See, man, I was right about one. I knew one of those teachers were dying. Once they kept, like, Midnight gave him that pep talk, I was like, yeah, she's really about to die.
Yep. Yep. They were really showing her like maternal side, her mentorship, and it was like, damn.
Shoulder in the front and center of the end credits.
Yep.
Like, it was tough.
That might as well have been a tombstone right there.
Pretty much. Shit, I mean, Eraser had so many close calls, and it was fucking ridiculous.
I know. I'm just glad he survived.
Yeah. They need him. They need him bad.
Also, my other thing is, again, putting it out there, top heroes, blah, blah, blah. So Eraserhead is like, powerful. But he was never a top hero. So like, Are we also going to call the other countries about heroes that can erase quirks or
Is he
positive
the
mental
only?
traits?
Is he the
That
only
would be
one?
very, very fucking helpful.
I also think with the top hero thing, I don't think you get ranked if you go straight to teacher work.
See, but there's still that database of their quirks. Like they
Oh yeah,
know
there
what
is.
their
There
quirks
is.
are. So like, hey, yo,
Who
you up to
knows?
that?
Yeah, we'll see. But with that being said, we'll figure something out. We'll definitely get that in the coming weeks. But thank you everyone for coming back to the My Hero Academia podcast. First one in months. It was a blast. Can't wait to have these back on a more consistent basis on the pod. And we'll be back in February. We're trekking. We're getting when we get to April, it's full steam preview. Who needs this? Who needs that? But with that being said, L7C podcast signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.